Can you spot reduce while dieting to lose only fat and nothing else? If body recomp is your goal, let's talk about best practices for fat loss, not weight loss, while keeping that precious metabolic muscle. Whether your goal is body recomp or you're trying to improve your health, let's talk about the science of fat loss over weight loss. Hey everyone, I'm Abbey Sharp. Welcome to Abby's Kitchen. Before we get into today's video, I want to thank my colleagues at Unlocked Fitness Nutrition for assisting on the research and evidence-based practical advice. I'm going to be linking to their website below if you're looking for my top trusted professionals when it comes to fitness and weight management support. I also want to remind everyone that I will be sharing fat loss related information today, which is at odds with the official intuitive eating philosophy. Personally and professionally, I believe in body autonomy, and I get asked a lot of questions about best practices for safe fat loss. So my goal as a science communicator is really to meet people where they are with evidence-based content and advice. I don't want you thinking that this is a suggestion from me that people should all be trying to lose fat or even weight. I'm simply responding to one of the most common questions that I get asked with the best quality science and a bit of my signature sass. Okay, hold up for a second. I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Element. So I'm really honored to be working with Element because this is a product that I was using years ago when I was on my breastfeeding saga, and it really helped me recover. I ended up getting back into it when I spent a few months down south this year because I just have a really bad tendency to get heat stroke or get super dehydrated in the sun. So this really saved me. A lot of my colleagues who work in sports nutrition also swear by Element specifically because it has a science-backed electrolyte ratio of 1,000 milligrams sodium, 200 milligrams potassium, and 60 milligrams magnesium, and it has no colors, sugar, or fillers. I've also found that having my electrolytes in the morning has also had a huge impact on my sleep. So even on days that I'm not sweating a lot, I'll usually still have at least half a packet. I love all things spicy, so the mango chili is my current obsession, but they have 9 different flavors, including their new grapefruit, which I also really love. Right now, Element is offering my viewers a free sample pack with any order. So that is 8 single serving packets for free with any Element order. And this is a really great way to try all 8 flavors or to share Element with a salty friend. So you can get yours at drinkelement.com/Abbey Sharp. And this deal is only available through my link. So you got to go to drinklmnt.com/Abbey Sharp. So good. Okay, so before we get into some of the best practices here in the science, it is worth pointing out that when people diet and lose weight, about a quarter of that weight on average is water, metabolic muscle mass, and in extreme weight loss cases, our vital organs like our heart and liver. This is actually one of the reasons for the high mortality rates in folks with restrictive EDs. Now, some muscle loss may be a bit inevitable, but if someone does insist on losing weight, we ideally want to skew as much as possible towards body fat rather than that really important metabolic muscle. And this is not just for body recomp aesthetics, which really is not my key demographic here. But for the average individual just trying to lose weight, we know that it's the excess fat that's associated with chronic disease, while a loss of that muscle mass is associated with poor metabolic health, heart health, strength, and risk of frailty later on in older age. So this is actually one of the main reasons why people who've been dieting their whole lives, aka weight cycling, tend to end up heavier over time. Each and every time a person diets and loses weight, they can lose some percentage of that muscle. And then when they go off the diet and they're eating normally again, they gain the weight back, and typically that weight regain is in fat. So basically, the more weight cycling, the less muscle mass we maintain and the lower our resting metabolism is. So let's start by answering some of the big questions that I get asked all the time. Number 1, can you spot reduce fat? So for example, I personally have a little more fat in my belly, but I would love a little help in the butt and boobs department.
Becky, look at her butt.
So if I diet, could I potentially just lose the weight right here? Well, spot reduction, or essentially deliberately losing fat from a specific region of the body, is often rejected by the health and science community and is often seen as a big fat myth. The problem is most studies that have researched spot reduction haven't actually included any trials where a significant amount of body fat loss was observed. So you can't just like shift around where the existing fat is. Not without surgery, at least.
I am a surgeon!
Now, generally speaking, when dieting, the areas of the body that have the most fat tend to be the areas where fat is lost from first. So in my case, theoretically, I would lose more weight in my belly than I would my boobs. That said, while spot reduction is often debated, spot lipolysis is actually clearly seen in the literature. So this is where individuals will break down more fat tissue around the muscles that they're exercising compared to other areas in the body. So for example, a cyclist would probably have super lean legs, but maybe if they did have fat in their body, it might be in their belly or somewhere else. So in that sense, like spot reduction is actually in some ways plausible. But for spot reduction to actually happen, the following criteria would likely be needed to be met. Number one, you need to be doing super high intensity exercise in the area that you wanted to reduce. Two, you would need a super high energy expenditure during or immediately after you exercise to burn the fat that's being mobilized from that area. And three, you would need to be in a caloric deficit or state of energy deficiency for weight and fat loss to even occur. It's a tall order. The only way you could spot reduce in less extreme conditions without any sort of like dieting or caloric restriction is if you do a lot of aerobic exercise, which has been shown to reduce visceral fat around the organs, which is actually the most dangerous type of fat. So this is the key here, folks. Exercise is super important for supporting the type of fat loss that's not about aesthetics, but that actually matters for health. Keep that in mind. Now, another question that I'm often asked about fat loss is related to all of these alleged fat burning diets and programs. Super quickly, fasted exercise, intermittent fasting, keto, and all these like fat burning supplements have shown no difference in fat loss in comparison to a control group. Fasted exercise does burn more fat, but not overall more calories, which is actually what matters when it comes to losing weight. Ditto for all these other diets that suppress insulin and put you in fat burning mode. Like the weight loss occurs not because of the fat burning mode, but because of the caloric deficit these things create. So just a quick reminder that fat loss doesn't equal weight loss. That's a really important thing to remember here. But let's say you are on a weight loss journey and you're actively dieting, whatever that looks like for you. I'm not suggesting anyone needs to do or should do. This is a theoretical scenario. But if this is the path that you have chosen, how can you skew towards fat loss while maintaining that health promoting muscle mass? This is really important here, folks. So I'm going to give you some evidence-based tips. Number one, exercise. You guys knew I was going to say that. I mean, you hear all the bros always saying that abs are made in the kitchen and that at least 80% of weight loss is diet. And I'm not debating that diet is arguably more important when it comes to weight loss specifically. But including an exercise program along with your diet will have the greatest impact on one's ability to maintain or gain muscle while dieting. Resistance exercise like strength training and weight training is obviously most effective, but endurance exercise is still way better than nothing. Tons of studies have demonstrated that people can maintain their muscle mass when losing weight if they are regularly resistance training. Now, the ideal sweet spot for most people seems to be around 10 sets of exercises for each muscle group per week, or what ends up being around 3 workout days per week at a high enough intensity that you are training near muscle failure. Now, if this feels impossibly intense, I know that I definitely do not train that hard. Remember that this is just the ideal for like professional style results. All movement is good movement and will help to support muscle preservation. And this brings me to another really important piece, protein. What I got right here, baby. So, There is a reason why the vast majority of popular weight loss diets promote higher amounts of protein. Not only is protein king of the satiety hierarchy, a la my hunger crushing combo, but it is imperative to maintaining muscle while we are losing weight. The faster your weight loss rate, the more protein needed to gain or even just maintain that protective muscle mass. So assuming that you're sticking to the recommended weight loss rate of around 1% weight loss per week, or between 1 to 2 pounds of weight loss per week, an intake of 0.8 to 1 grams per pound of body weight will be enough for most people. So for a 160-pound person, that's somewhere in the neighborhood of around 120 to 160 grams of protein. And if that number sounds really super high, it could look something like this. Breakfast could be a cheese and veggie omelet with like 2 eggs and 2 egg whites with some whole grain toast. For snack, we could do like a protein shake. Lunch could be veggie and quinoa salad with like 3.5 ounces of chicken breast. For snack, we could have a cup of shelled edamame. Dinner could be like a veggie rice stir fry with like 3.5 ounces of shrimp. And bedtime snack could be a cup of cottage cheese with berries. You guys know I love cottage cheese. So back to the old adage that 80% of fat loss is diet and 20% is exercise. In the context of maintaining muscle mass to preserve metabolism while losing weight, we actually see that resistance training is queen, though a combination of these two things reigns supreme. That rhyme, and I like it. I love me a little rhyme. Hold that thought, popping these in a 350 oven for like 20 minutes or something.
20 minutes later.
So as you can see from this graph, resistance exercise alone makes up about 87% of the effect of muscle maintenance and growth in a calorie deficit, while protein makes up the other 13%. So to recap, if you're dieting and actively trying to lose weight, you are naturally at risk of muscle loss. And in order to protect our metabolism, immune function, heart health, and strength as we age, we want to minimize that as much as we can. You are at even greater risk of a higher than average proportion of weight coming from muscle instead of fat if, number one, if you're already at a normal or underweight BMI category and therefore have less fat to lose. In that demographic specifically, we sometimes see as much as 35% loss of fat-free mass. Not ideal. Number two, if you're losing weight at a faster than recommended rate, so more than 1% per week. Number three, if you're intermittent fasting, especially if you're doing full day fasting or the OMAD diet when you're only eating 1 meal a day. 4, if you're not exercising. 5, if you're not getting enough protein. And 6, if you are already over the age of 65. All of these factors will make dieting and weight loss a lot more risky for long-term health. So I'm not saying that you should never attempt weight loss if you meet any of those criteria. But I'm just warning that if you do, it may be very helpful to seek out professional support like my go-to RDs at Unlocked Fitness Nutrition. Again, I'm gonna leave their contact info below. And also another reminder that this is not a suggestion to anyone to try to lose weight or fat. It is simply a summary of the evidence on the safest way to do so for those who decide to make that choice for themselves. And on that note, we got breakfast for a few days here. This is a built-in hunger crushing combo. We got high fiber carbs in our tortilla, plus lots of protein and healthy fats in our eggs, cheese, and nooch. I am excited to dig in. And on that note, that's all that I have for you guys today. If you like this video, please give it the thumbs up. Hit up my description for my new hunger crushing combo ebook, and I'll see you next time on Abby's Kitchen. Bye.